It started with an envelope, plain, white, unassuming. It lay on the kitchen counter, as if it had always been there. Eric Lancaster didn't remember bringing in the mail, nor did he recall seeing the letter among the usual bills and flyers. Yet there was. His name was scrawled on the front in shaky black ink, the handwriting strangely familiar. Curious, he tore it open, unfolding the single sheet inside. The paper was aged, slightly yellowed, as though it had been written years ago. But the words sent a chill up his spine. Eric, this is you. Or rather, this is you from the future. I know this sounds insane, but you need to listen carefully. Things are about to go very wrong. You have to leave your apartment tonight. Do not stay there under any circumstances. Don't let anyone in. Don't trust the shadows. Please, if you want to live, listen to me. Eric scoffed, shaking his head. A prank. It had to be. Maybe one of his friends was messing with him. But as he read the note again, his gut twisted. The handwriting. It wasn't just familiar. It was identical to his own. He set the letter down, rubbing his temples. Rationality told him to dismiss it, yet a strange unease gnawed at him. He glanced at the clock, 9:47 p.m. His apartment was silent, save for the distant hum of the refrigerator. Outside, the city buzzed with life, but inside, a suffocating stillness settled around him. Then, the lights flickered. Eric froze. A power surge, maybe, but then came the knock. 3 slow, deliberate taps against the front door. His breath hitched. He stood still, heart hammering against his ribs. Who would be visiting this late? He moved cautiously toward the peephole, hesitated, then peered through. No one was there. A chill crept up his spine. His apartment door didn't have a hallway. It led directly outside. There was nowhere for someone to hide. And yet, someone had knocked. He backed away from the door, pulse racing. His eyes flickered back to the letter. Don't let anyone in. Another knock, this time louder, more insistent. Eric clenched his fists. His rational mind was at war with his instincts. Someone was obviously messing with him. He took a deep breath, reached for the doorknob, and yanked the door open. The hallway was empty. A gust of cold air rushed past him, but there was no one there. No footprints. No lingering presence. Just a silent corridor stretching into darkness. Swallowing hard, he shut the door and locked it. His pulse thundered in his ears. His apartment suddenly felt too small, too confining. Then his phone buzzed. He jumped, whipping his head toward the counter where his phone sat. The screen was on, a notification glowing against the darkness. It was a text from an unknown number. Why didn't you listen? Eric's stomach dropped. His fingers hovered over the screen, reluctant to respond. A sharp static noise suddenly crackled through the apartment speakers. The TV, which had been off, flickered to life, displaying nothing but grainy white noise. The static hissed, growing louder, filling the room like an intrusive presence. Eric grabbed the remote and tried turning it off, but the buttons did nothing. He yanked the power cord from the wall. The screen went black, but the sense of unease didn't leave. Then his phone vibrated again. Look outside. His breath caught in his throat. He didn't want to. Every instinct screamed at him to ignore it. But something pulled him toward the window. Slowly, cautiously, he parted the blinds and peered into the street below. At first, he saw nothing unusual. The usual neon glow of city lights. Cars zipping past. Pedestrians moving about. But then his gaze landed on a figure standing across the street. A man, dressed in dark clothes, motionless, staring directly up at him. Eric's blood ran cold. The man's face was obscured by shadows, but there was something deeply unsettling about him. An unnatural stillness, as if he wasn't breathing. Eric stepped back, heart pounding. His phone buzzed again. He didn't want to look, but he forced himself. Do not turn around. His body locked up. Every muscle screamed for him to move, but fear paralyzed him. He was alone in his apartment. Or at least, he thought he was. A creak sounded behind him. Slow, deliberate. His mouth went dry. He forced himself to breathe, to think. He could feel it now. Something was there, behind him, watching. His mind flashed back to the letter. Leave your apartment tonight. Do not stay there under any circumstances. Eric's shaking hand reached for the doorknob. He had to get out, now. But before he could twist it open, his phone vibrated again. This time it was a call. The unknown number. Trembling. He pressed answer and held the phone to his ear. A whisper came through, faint, distorted. You were too late. The call ended, and then everything went dark. Eric's world plunged into darkness. The entire apartment lost power, swallowing everything in an abyss of silence. The only sound was his own ragged breathing. His heart slammed against his ribs as he fumbled for his phone, its screen barely illuminating the room. Then he heard it, a soft shuffle. Someone was inside with him. His throat tightened as he tried to stay still, forcing himself to listen. The noise had come from behind him, near the kitchen. He dared not turn around. His mind screamed for him to move, to run, but he felt rooted to the spot. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. And then, a whisper, low, raspy. Eric, his stomach lurched. The voice was close. Too close. He could feel the presence just behind him, a breath away from his ear. Every hair on his body stood on end. With a burst of adrenaline, Eric lunged to the door, twisting the knob. It wouldn't budge. The lock. His trembling fingers fumbled to undo it, but it felt jammed, stuck as though someone was holding it from the other side. The whisper came again. You shouldn't have looked. Eric spun around. The glow from his phone cast weak light across the apartment, revealing nothing. The kitchen was empty. The furniture sat undisturbed. The only thing out of place was his own fear, an oppressive weight pressing down on him. His breathing came fast and uneven. His fingers tightened around his phone as he tried to call someone, anyone, but the screen only displayed one thing. No signal. His stomach twisted. His apartment was on the 3rd floor in the middle of the city. There was no reason for him to lose service. And then, just as suddenly as it had vanished, the power surged back on. The lights flickered once, twice, before steadying. The TV remained off this time, but the room still felt wrong. Something had changed. Eric's eyes swept the space, his pulse still racing. He was alone. At least, he thought he was. And then, his gaze landed on the kitchen counter. The letter. It was gone. A cold dread settled into his bones. He had left it right there, unfolded, staring at him with its cryptic warning. Now it had disappeared. A sharp knock at the door made him jump. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. He swallowed hard. His body was rigid with fear, but he forced himself to approach the door. With shaking hands, he pressed his eye to the peephole. Nothing. No one was there. His fingers hovered over the doorknob, hesitating. He should ignore it. He should walk away. But before he could make a decision, a white envelope slid under the door, gliding across the hardwood floor like a ghostly invitation. Eric's breath hitched. Another letter. He hesitated before picking it up, his hands unsteady as he ripped open the envelope. This one felt colder, like it had been left outside in the winter air. The letter inside was shorter than the last, but the message sent ice through his veins. You made a mistake. Now it won't stop watching. Eric's breath came in sharp gasps as he clutched the paper. His pulse pounded in his ears, and he suddenly felt the air around him shift, like the room had shrunk, closing in on him. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He nearly dropped in his panic, but when he pulled it out, the screen displayed another text. The same unknown number. Check your reflection. His throat tightened. He didn't want to. He couldn't, but the pull was too strong. Slowly, his gaze lifted to the mirror hanging on the wall near the entryway, and his stomach dropped. The reflection staring back at him wasn't his own. It looked like him, same height, same features, but the eyes were wrong. They were hollow, dark pits, swallowing the light, endless voids that carried something beyond human comprehension. And then it smiled, not a normal smile, a slow, twisting grin that stretched too wide, revealing teeth that weren't his. Eric stumbled backward, his breath strangled in his throat. The reflection remained, watching him, the grin never fading. Then it lifted a hand and placed a single finger against its lips. Sure. Eric slammed his eyes shut. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. When he forced himself to look again, his reflection was normal. His own face, pale and terrified, staring back at him. The phone buzzed once more. Leave now. That was all it said. No name, no explanation. Eric didn't need one. He bolted to the door, twisting the knob. This time it turned easily. He threw the door open, ready to flee. But the moment he stepped into the hallway, he froze. Because standing there, just a few feet away, was himself. A perfect replica. Same face, same clothes. But the smile, it was the same one from the mirror, and it was getting wider. Eric's breath hitched in his throat. His mind screamed at him to move, but his body refused to obey. The thing standing in the hallway, his copy, was motionless, watching him with that impossibly wide grin. It tilted its head slightly, as if studying him, the dim overhead light casting unnatural shadows on its face. Eric's instincts kicked in. He stepped back, retreating into his apartment. But before he could slam the door shut, the other him took a step forward. A whisper, barely audible. You're in my way. Eric's hand trembled on the doorknob. What are you? His voice barely came out above a whisper. The thing didn't respond. Instead, it raised one hand, palm facing outward, fingers slowly curling inward like a claw. The overhead lights flickered violently, plunging the hallway into an eerie strobe effect. Eric's pulse pounded in his ears. Every instinct told him to run, but his feet remained rooted to the floor. The air had changed, thicker, heavier, like something invisible was pressing down on him. Then the copy moved, not in a normal way. It jerked forward, its body shifting in an unnatural, fragmented motion, as though reality itself was struggling to keep up with it. 1 second it was a few feet away, then suddenly, in the blink of an eye, it was standing inches from him. Eric stumbled backward, heart hammering. His vision swam, his breath ragged. He had to get out. He had to. A buzzing sound filled the air. Sharp, static-like. His phone. He fumbled for it with shaking hands. The screen flickered, distorting, as another message appeared. Do not look away. Eric's blood ran cold. He didn't want to listen. He wanted to run, to slam the door, to do something. But something told him, if he looked away, even for a second, it would take him. His throat tightened as the thing standing in front of him slowly leaned in. He could feel its breath, cold and stale, washing over his skin. The grin stretched impossibly wider. Step aside. Eric's phone vibrated violently in his hand. Another message. Move now. Summoning every ounce of willpower, Eric lunged sideways, dodging past the thing before it could react. He bolted down the hall, not daring to look back. The walls around him seemed to stretch endlessly, warping and twisting as he ran. The hallway shouldn't have been this long. His apartment was on the 3rd floor. He knew the layout. But suddenly, the exit door felt miles away, unreachable. His phone buzzed again. He didn't stop running as he glanced at the screen. Stop. Do not open the exit door. Eric's steps faltered. His hand was already inches from the door handle. Why? What was on the other side? A new message flashed before he could process. It's not what you think. A shadow passed under the door. Something big. Eric took a shaky step back, his breathing uneven. And then he heard it. A voice. Deep, hollow. It seeped through the cracks in the door, dripping with something wrong. Eric, let me in. His stomach turned. The voice was his. No. The thing in the hallway wasn't the only one. Something else, another version of him, was waiting beyond that door. The lights overhead dimmed. The air grew colder. Eric turned, forcing his legs to move. The hallway stretched endlessly behind him, but he ran anyway. He had no choice. His phone buzzed one last time. He risked a glance. You have one last chance. The bedroom. Now! His bedroom? Why? Eric didn't hesitate. He ran. The hall twisted and warped around him. But finally, He reached his apartment door again. He barreled inside, slamming it shut behind him. But something was wrong. His apartment wasn't his anymore. The furniture was different. The walls were cracked and peeling. A thick layer of dust coated everything. The air smelled old, like the space had been abandoned for years. His chest tightened. He wasn't home. This wasn't his apartment. Then, a soft rustling sound. Eric turned his head slowly. Sitting on the bed was an envelope. White, crisp, unopened, trembling. He stepped forward, reaching out with hesitant fingers. He didn't want to open it. He needed to. His name was scrawled on the front, the same shaky handwriting. But beneath it, in bolder ink, was a warning. This is your last chance. Eric swallowed hard and tore the envelope open. The letter inside was longer than the others, but the words made his blood run cold. Eric, you've gone too far. This place isn't real. You're trapped between moments, between versions of yourself. There's no time left. You must find the thing that doesn't belong in this room. Destroy it. And whatever you do, asterisk. His eyes scan ahead, stomach twisting. Do not listen to the voice in the closet. A slow creaking sound filled the air. Eric turned toward the bedroom closet. The door was ajar. A sliver of darkness peeked through the gap, and from inside, a voice whispered, "Eric, let me out." Eric's entire body stiffened. His breath caught in his throat as the whisper slithered through the air. "Eric, let me out." The voice was his, but warped, twisted, like someone had taken a recording of him and dragged the audio through shattered glass. The letter trembled in his grip. Do not listen to the voice in the closet. He forced himself to take a step back. Every nerve in his body screamed at him to run, to get as far away from that door as possible. But something else, something deeper, kept him frozen in place. The closet door creaked open another inch. Eric clenched his fists, his heart hammering. He couldn't just stand here. He had to find it, whatever it was. The letter had said to find the thing that didn't belong in this room. His eyes darted around, scanning every inch of space. The furniture was wrong. The walls were peeling. The air was stale, thick with dust. But none of that felt out of place. Not in this version of his apartment. And then he saw it, a picture frame, sitting on the nightstand, face down. Eric's pulse quickened. That hadn't been there before. His trembling fingers reached for it, but the moment he lifted the frame, the whisper from the closet turned to a snarl. "Don't!" Eric's blood turned to ice. The door rattled violently, shaking against its hinges as something clawed at the wood from the other side. He had no time. He flipped the frame over. His stomach lurched. It was a picture of him, but the eyes, oh God, the eyes, were black voids bleeding into the paper like ink and water. And beneath the photo, scrawled in jagged handwriting, were the words, "IT was never you." The closet door burst open. A rush of cold air hit him like a wave. Eric stumbled backward, gripping the frame like a lifeline. Something stepped out. No, crawled out. A figure, tall and wrong, its limbs bending at unnatural angles. Its skin, if it even had skin, was a shifting blur, like static on a broken television screen. And its face was his. But not quite. Distorted, warped, a grotesque mimicry of his own features, twisted into something barely recognizable. And it was smiling, a wide, stretching grin that split its face open. "You finally found it." The thing rasped, its voice layered, like multiple versions of him speaking at once. Eric's breath came in short, panicked gasps. The letter, the warning, destroy it. He had no idea what would happen next, but he knew one thing. This picture frame didn't belong here. Eric hurled it to the ground, stomping down with all his strength. The glass shattered, shards exploding outward. The instant the frame broke, the figure let out an inhuman shriek. The room around him rippled. The walls twisted. The air vibrated. And then the thing lunged at him. But just before it could reach him, everything blinked, and Eric was somewhere else. He hit the floor hard. The impact sent a jolt of pain through his body. He gasped, scrambling to his feet. His heart nearly stopped. He was in his apartment, his real apartment. The furniture was back to normal. The walls were clean. The air smelled fresh, real alive. He turned frantically, scanning for any sign of the thing, the other him. Nothing. Had he done it? Had he escaped? His hands shook as he reached for his phone. The screen was normal. No flickering. No messages from the unknown number. Just a list of missed calls from his friends. It was over. It had to be over. Eric let out a shuddering breath, running a hand through his sweat-drenched hair. And then, a soft knock at the door. Slow, deliberate. Eric's stomach dropped. He stepped forward, heart hammering. His fingers hovered over the doorknob. And then, from the other side, a voice. His voice. "Eric, let me in." Eric's fingers hovered over the doorknob. His breath came in short, shallow gasps. The voice on the other side of the door, his voice was patient, calm. "Eric, I know you're in there." The knock came again. Slow, measured. Each tap against it would send a cold shiver down Eric's spine. He knew better than to answer. He had escaped. He had destroyed the frame. That thing, the distorted version of himself, should be gone. But it wasn't. Eric took a step back. His mind screamed at him to run, to get out of the apartment, to get as far away from here as possible. Then his phone buzzed. His stomach lurched. He hesitated before looking at the screen. A new message. "Do not open the door, no matter what it says." Eric swallowed hard. His hands were shaking as he clutched the phone. Another knock. Then the voice changed. It was no longer his. It was softer now, familiar. "Eric, please." His blood ran cold. It was his mother's voice. "Eric, honey, it's me. Just open the door. You've been acting strange. Let me in, sweetheart." His hands clenched into fists. It wasn't real. He knew it wasn't real. His mother lived across the country. But God, hearing her voice, the warmth, the concern, it made him hesitate. "You're not my mom," he whispered. Silence. Then a new voice. This one made him freeze. "Eric, help me. It's me, Clara." His ex-girlfriend. She had disappeared last year, vanished without a trace. The police found no leads, no evidence, nothing. Eric's throat tightened. "Eric, I don't know where I am." The voice whimpered. Please open the door." A lump formed in his throat. Clara, could it be her? Could she be alive? His fingers trembled over the lock. Then his phone buzzed again. A new message. "If you open that door, you will never be seen again." Eric's heart pounded. He knew this wasn't Clara. It couldn't be. Whatever was on the other side of that door, it wasn't human. It was trying to break him, to trick him. He took another step back. Silence. And then a whisper. "You're already too late." The door handle twisted. Eric's pulse skyrocketed. He turned and bolted. He ran straight for his bedroom, slamming the door shut behind him. His phone buzzed again. He forced himself to look. "Look under your bed. Now!" Eric hesitated. He didn't want to. Every part of him resisted. But the knocking at the front door had stopped, and a new sound had taken its place. A scratching from inside the bedroom. Eric's breath caught in his throat. His eyes flickered to the bed. The scratching grew louder, closer. Slowly, he crouched down. His heart pounded so loudly it hurt. He lifted the bed skirt, and his blood turned to ice. There, curled in the shadows, was him, not the twisted, grinning copy from before, but him, his own face, his own body, mouth gagged, eyes wide with terror, wrists bound together with thick, frayed rope. He was shaking violently, staring up at Eric with a look of pure pleading. Eric's entire body locked up. Then, the bound version of himself screamed, and everything broke. The walls rippled. The lights flickered. The room shattered like glass, splitting apart in jagged fragments of black and white. Eric fell backward, his head spinning. The apartment collapsed around him. The floor vanished. And then, darkness. When Eric opened his eyes, he was standing in a place he didn't recognize. A long, empty corridor stretched before him, lined with countless doors, each one identical, each one labeled with a name. Some names he recognized, some he didn't. But one door, standing directly in front of him, sent an icy wave of terror through his body. It had his name on it, and beneath it, written in the same jagged handwriting as the letters, "You took too long." Eric turned to run, but the hallway stretched endlessly in every direction. There was no way out. Then, the door with his name creaked open, and from the darkness beyond, a voice, his voice. "Finally, you're here."